looking at three positional battles that could make an absolute impact on Boston College football's 2025 season.
You are Locked On Boston College, your daily podcast on the Boston College Eagles. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everyone, and welcome. This is Locked On Boston College, your team every day. I'm your host, AJ Black. I'm the editor of Eagle Insider, part of the 247 Network, and I've been the host of this show for over 5 years, and I've been covering Boston College for over a decade. If you want insight, analysis, and news on your Boston College Eagles, you are in the right place. We do this 5 times a week, free and available on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. On today's show, we're going to talk about positional battles. I'm going to end it with the question you all want to know from me. Who do I think is going to be the starting quarterback come day one of Boston College football? I'm going to go out there. I will make my guess. Number 2, how about that center position? Who's going to be the starting center? There's interesting things going on right there. I want to get into the options that BC has at center. And what about the slot corner position? Now, we'll kick that off. This is a position that I've done over 1,000 shows of Locked On BC, and I've not dedicated an entire segment to the slot or nickel corner position. And I'm going to do that right now. That's how deep we are here in July at Locked On BC. So last year, to give you some background, you had 2 nickel corners that basically took all those snaps for the 2024 season. You had Khari Johnson and you had Cam Martinez. And both of them had their moments, right? Khari Johnson, he had I think he had an interception touchdown against Duquesne. He had a few other good plays throughout the season. Cam Martinez, man, against that Virginia Tech game, once BC fell apart, it was Cam Martinez was one of the biggest reasons why BC came back in that game. But there was also struggles there too. It was not the most cohesive part of that secondary when it came to the end of the year. So we're heading into 2025. There is going to definitely be a battle for that spot. Cam Martinez is back. Khari Johnson is gone. Martinez, he's a grad student. He spent 3 years at Ohio State. He took 1 year at BC. This is his final year. Clearly, he's a leader. He's a veteran. He's a guy that is going to want this job real bad. But it's not just him. There's other situations of guys that could come in and take that spot. You have Zaire Torrance, who was a class of 2024 recruit. You saw him playing 7 games last year on special teams. He looked pretty good during camp, I got to say that. And he's going to be a guy to watch for. He's one of the highest rated recruits they grabbed last year from Christian's Brother Academy in New York. And I think, if he grows, he looks like he has a good upside. And honestly, and this is not a knock on Cam Martinez, because I think Cam's had his moments, I would say that Torrance probably has a higher upside than Martinez at this point. Because he's younger, and you could see maybe him developing into a bit more. But it's not just those two. That's the thing where this thought exercise kind of goes in. It branches out like a tree. You look at what BC has in the secondary, and you see a ton of talent. And there's specifically one position where BC is a little log jammed, and that's the free safety position. You have Omar Thornton, and you have Carter Davis. Now, your big question, this could have been a segment in itself. Who starts there? I would say Carter Davis is most likely going to start there. But then what do you do with Omar Thornton? Omar Thornton was a true freshman last year who looked very good. This is a guy, a ball hawk. Bill O'Brien was just speaking very highly about him on his podcast this week. You can't play 3 safeties regularly. So what could you do? You have some options. You could move Thornton or Davis to that nickel position. Remember, if you weren't paying attention fully last year, going into camp, Carter Davis was a cornerback. That was what his position was supposed to be. And then they found out that he fit better at free safety, and they bumped Jalen Cheek out, and they put Carter Davis back there. But he could play corner too. So if Bill O'Brien and Tim Lewis, if their goal is to get the best players out on the field at all times, here is a situation that they could consider. And maybe there's reasons that they wouldn't do this, but they could consider taking a Carter Davis or an Omar Thornton and making them the nickelback. I mean, Davis probably makes more sense because that's his position. That was his position before. And then you have Thornton, you have KP Price, and you have Carter Davis out there. So that's an option too. If you look at that secondary and you see that, maybe Cameron Martinez might be a good situational player and Syer Torrance isn't there yet, maybe what you do is you move Carter Davis and make him your nickel because he's one of your best defensive players that you have. I wouldn't hate it. Now, if you want to ask me what my prediction will be, I get the sense with this one. My sense is that BC, I get the sense that most college coaches probably like the veteran leadership out there and guys that have just been around. So I would guess they'd probably lean more towards Cameron Martinez. But that's July 14th that we're talking about right now. What happens when they have all those practices and all those scrimmages and you see maybe there's a guy that is stepping up? And that guy, whether it's Thornton or Syer Torrance, that could change the whole complexion of all this. The nickelback position is very important. This is what happens when you take it that extra linebacker out because the way new offenses are working, you bring in an extra cornerback in. That happens so much more regularly than, playing three linebackers at times. So getting the right guy out there is going to be critical for BC. You got to get the right guy. And you may think it may be Cam, it may be Syer, but whatever the case may be, this is going to be a big battle. This is going to be a chance. I honestly think this one specifically that Tim Lewis is going to need to try out and he does this all the time anyways, but try him out. See who works best in that system at that point. Who is going to give you the best chance of being that kind of physical lockdown corner that you need at the nickel position and hang with some of the fastest wide receivers you're going to play in the ACC. That, I think, is going to be big. So will it be Carter Davis? Will it be Syer Torrance? Will it be Cam Martinez? That's what camp's going to be all about. Now, camp is going to start in a couple weeks. I will be there at many of the practices. If I can't make it, I'll have other staff that will be there as well. And you're in the right place if you want to get details of what's going on in camp. Just as a note, during the spring, they were very guarded on who's going to start and all that stuff. We'll talk about who's doing well. That's what we'll talk about here at Locked On BC. Well, we'll be back in just a moment to talk about the center position. A position that has, just like the nickelback position, multiple iterations that could end with a starter. I'll look at all three, plus maybe some others, and we'll talk about that in just a moment. We've all been there before, waiting and waiting and waiting for concert tickets to go on sale, only to lose your spot for a show you've been dying to see. Live music should be about making memories, not dealing with the stress of ticket shopping. That's where Game Time comes in. Game Time makes getting concert tickets faster and easier than ever. Prices actually drop as it gets closer to showtime, and you can save up to 60% off with their killer last-minute deals. Are you tired of endlessly scrolling trying to find the best deals? Game Time's Zone Deals pick the best seats in your section just for you. And with their panoramic seat view, you know exactly what you're buying. I've said this before. I bought Boston College tickets off of Game Time. I knew exactly where I was going to sit, and they showed me, so I got the best seats that I knew I wanted for my family. So take the guesswork out of buying concert and show tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. Last-minute tickets, lowest prices, guaranteed. This is Locked On Boston College. I am your host, AJ Black. And again, this podcast is available on YouTube wherever you get your podcast, and it's completely free. I appreciate all my first listeners who listen. You make Locked On Boston College your first listen every single day. And for you guys, you are the lifeblood of this podcast. And the more and more of you guys out there, the better this show gets in front of new Boston College fans. And they get their Boston College news here. And I appreciate each and every one of you. Now, we're talking positional battles. Camp, this is what Bill O'Brien, this is his bread and butter. And this is the goal of how he's building his roster. It's depth and it's battles and guys trying to earn it. Remember, that's his saying. It's earn it. And so you're bringing in guys to hopefully make everyone work harder to keep that starting position and let new names come in to potentially, earn that spot. The center position on the offense is one position I look at and I say to myself, there is multiple things that could happen here when it comes to who could be starting, who could be the backup, and who could be the third string by the time this summer camp ends. If you were to ask at the end of April, not only just me saying this, but I would think the staff would say the same thing, that it would look like Dwayne Allick would be your starting center. This is a guy that's been around 4 or 5 years. He's on his final year. And it's not just that he's been around. He's played, decent snaps. He's not like he's just been on the bench and you're just jolting him up. He's played. He's had roles on this roster. And it looks like he would be tailor-made to be the starting center. And I bet Bill O'Brien, and when you listen to what Bill O'Brien said at the end of spring, it sounded like that. But it was only because the one guy that was going to challenge Dwayne Allick hadn't even arrived on campus yet. And that would be transfer center from Princeton, Tommy Matheson. Now, on Bill O'Brien's podcast this week, he talked about Matheson. He said this is a kid that's smart. He did say that he did not come to camp in great shape, but I've talked to some people. This is not uncommon that, the strength and conditioning coaches, they only need a month or so and they get those guys right back into the right shape that they need to be. So I think that's a little bit of a nothing burger there. I know some people have been saying, Tommy Matheson came to camp out of shape. Happens in the NFL, happens at college levels all the time. That's what strength and conditioning coaches are there for, to get them right back where they need to be. Now, Matheson, he has extensive starting snaps. Like, this is a guy that played quite a bit for the Tigers. And there was a reason why when he graduated from Princeton, there were Power 4 programs that really wanted him. So this gives BC a lot of flexibility and versatility with the guys that they have, because you can make and you can use this like Legos. You can put different people in different spots and still make it work. So the first thing you could do is you could just go with what I just said at the beginning, which is Dwayne Allick starts. You have your guards of Logan Taylor and probably Eric Dougherty. And then you go with your tackles of Jude Bowery and Kevin Klein, and boom, you're done. That would be the most chalk way of looking at this offensive line. The other way, if that's the chalk, that's kind of what we all expected coming out of spring. I honestly think option 2 might be more of what we might see. And this is what I think. If you were to ask me a prediction, and this is without me seeing Tommy Matheson take a single snap at practice, because that could change my predictions completely. But right now, I look at this. What if you keep the tackles the same, Bowery and Klein? You move, you have Logan Taylor out there, but you move Dwayne Allick to guard. You get that veteran presence out there, but at guard. Then you put Tommy Matheson at center. Now you look at the age of that offensive line. You have everybody on that line has played significant snaps at the collegiate level. Well, Matheson's played at the FCS level, but still. That seems to me like the best way to get to what you're trying to do. My big caveat of all that is Tommy Matheson is brand new, and center is a very valuable position in terms of setting, blocking schemes and looking for the mic and setting everything what you need for that offense. For a guy that just showed up on campus, that's asking a lot. But then I also think he went to Princeton. This guy is bright. He's very smart. He's going to pick this up. If he picks that up, you then have made your center a veteran. You instead of Eric Dougherty, and Eric Dougherty is going to have his time, but you put in Dwayne Allick there as the veteran, and all of a sudden, your offensive line is very, it's got a lot of it's grizzled and it's veteran. That's what you want. You don't want to be throwing out there freshmen and redshirt freshmen to be doing a lot of this stuff. Now, there's other iterations. Again, like this is the fun thing about when you have depth, you can find different things to do, and it's where the practice comes in. Ryan McCow, he could get out there. That could change how things complexions go. Eric Dougherty played center as well. That's another piece to this puzzle. Dougherty has played center. Could he, with a strong summer, find his way out there? I'm not sure that's going to be the case of what happens here. But what I'm saying here is you have enough versatility that you can mix and match to make your offensive line what you need it to be. But the big caveat here is, and I hope this is the case with what O'Brien does, you do it quick. Now that you're in the summer, you do not want to be playing around with your offensive line very long. First week and a half or so. By that point, you really want to find who your starters are, I would imagine, because you want them to start to be able to communicate it with each other, to really understand the needs and movement of every guy on that group. You got to figure it out quick. So that's going to be this is a positional battle. While you won't get the too deep until the week before the Fordham game, you should get a better sense of who's starting pretty quick, because they can't. This is one of those things where you just cannot wait until the end of August to make your decision. You got to do it quick because you want those guys to start to work together. So, as I said, my guess there, and this is just a educated guess, not even seeing Tommy Matheson take a snap in maroon and gold. I love the idea of having Matheson at center and Dwayne Allick at guard. You get your veterans out there, and that should help your offensive line really take that next step after losing Ozzie Trapillo, Drew Kendall, and Jack Conley. Now, in our final segment, a topic that we've talked about a lot when we're talking about positional battles, quarterback. You guys want to know, you've asked me multiple times, and I always dodge you. Who's going to be the starter? I'll tell you who I think in just a moment. Welcome back. This is Locked On Boston College, your team every day. To my first listeners that made Locked On Boston College your first listen, whether you're, at the gym, making coffee, thank you so much. Thank you for making us, getting your Boston College news, whether you're an alumni, a fan, a parent of a player. Thank you all who have made us part of your daily routine. And if you're looking for a second listen, check out Locked On College Football with Spencer McLaughlin. That is available on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. Now, if you want more of my positional battles, I gave you 3, but there's more that I put up on my website. Go to Eagle Insider, part of the 247 network. I have more details up there about a few other ones that I'm watching for, as well as summer camp comes soon. Now, the final one, the one that you all are going, oh, they're talking about camp battles. I know exactly what AJ is going to talk about. The quarterback position, because this is what everyone wants to talk about. Grayson James versus Dylan Lonergan. The returning veteran versus the 4-star from Alabama. We've gone over, until my face turns blue, all the differences. Well, you have Grayson James, who's a veteran, who did a great job, a very good job, leading Boston College after Tommy Castellanos got benched last year. You bring in a guy like Dylan Lonergan, who I honestly, and I said this before, was skeptical that, 4-stars come and go, and unless they showed on the field, they aren't just the same as any other guy. But he showed it to me. That was the big thing with Dylan Lonergan, is that spring, he looked very much like QB1 out there. So the big question is, and you guys keep asking me, and I want to say this right now, I have dodged and dodged and dodged and dodged answering your question about this, whether it's on my website message board, on this podcast. You guys all want to know who is going to be the starter come day one. And this is so tough. As I've said before, in my heart, I've always thought it's 50-50. But if you want me to take a step back and really think who I think it's going to be, I look at the schedule. I look at this offense. I look at what Grayson James did last year. And Grayson James did quite a bit for this offense. I look at this team, and I honestly do believe when it comes to day one, starting against Fordham, I think Grayson James is going to be the starter. I'm not 100% confident of that right now, but that's where I'm at. Because Grayson James showed that he can beat the UNCs, the Pitts, Syracuse. He held his own at times against Nebraska. Like, you want to get Dylan Lonergan out there fast because, he needs to play soon. So that's the part that I'm a little skeptical of. But unless Grayson James really bombs during summer camp, I feel like just knowing this offense, being here for a whole year, being, a trusted leader in that locker room, being a guy that knows what he's doing, I feel like that little edge is going to give him the time to start. Now, the big piece is if he goes out and struggles, at summer camp and Lonergan looks great, I could be completely wrong here. But this is just where I'm at right now. Without practice going on, just logically thinking James versus Lonergan, I think right now I'm going to go with Grayson James. He makes the plays. He has, he's tough as nails. He's hard to take down. He's mobile enough. He does what you need to do. I just think it would be a really hard decision to just bench him after what he did last year. So right now, just heart of hearts, that's where I think things are going to go. My hope is that through this whole situation, that they give him the chance to play. If he's the starter, play him, and don't just bench him the first time he has an issue. Because the last thing this team needs is playing volleyball with your starting quarterback. Like you start with James, and unless if he struggles and you think that Dylan Lonergan is going to be the decision to go forward, you make that choice, but you don't waffle back and forth. If James struggles and you put in Lonergan, stick with Lonergan. Do not go back. So that's where I'm at. I think Grayson James will be the starter. I feel like he must have been given, if he felt heart of heart going into summer that he was not going to be the starter, he would have hit the transfer portal. Like if he got the gut, like we all have our intuition. Like if his intuition told him, Dylan beat me up bad in camp and I feel like I'm not going to be the starter, I wouldn't have hated him at all if he just entered the portal because he has one more year left. He must feel pretty confident that he's still feeling like he's going to be the starter. Otherwise, I think he would have left. And that's not a bash on him, and that's my gut feeling of how many people would have reacted. But I think he should be the starter. I think he's done enough, and I think as long as he stays healthy, he'll be the guy. Now, we have summer camp to see, and you can all take this clip when if James goes out there and struggles and Lonergan gets the starting spot, say, AJ, you're wrong. I'm just saying right now, after spring camp of what I saw, I think Grayson James will be the starter when it comes to to the fall. Thank you all for listening. You can follow along with me on Twitter at AJBlack247. You can find me on Facebook, on Instagram, on Eagle Insider. You can also check me out on TikTok at Locked On Boston College. And I hope you hit the like and subscribe button. We've been having great numbers for the summer, and I want to get even better because all that good traffic comes over and boom, the fall hits when the season starts. Bring more of you over to listen to our podcast. Thank you all so much. And thank you for making Locked On Boston College your first listen every single day. This is Locked On Boston College, your team every day.